Hi, I'm Ridhya Raj, the Reading Fairy, and welcome to a chapter read of The Rose Enigma by Lauren Lopes. Chapter 51, The Library, Isabella. Isabella was running toward a storm. The laces slapped her black combat boots, the sunlight dress streaming behind her as she bunched the skirts in her fist. Running, always running. She realized it while she sat in the roses, watching Brendan walk away, that she'd been running her whole life, from the loss of a mother she'd never known, from a world that didn't quite get her, from a restlessness she couldn't shake. Ciphers, codes, enigmas, algorithms. While deciphering them, Isabella was distracted, but the restlessness would always return. Then she'd be running once more. Now she ran to him, the man who'd stumbled out of the shadows and into her knowing. She didn't need to know his story, because he had become hers. The golden afternoon deepened into dusk as Isabella's boots met the stairs of their home. Her cheeks were flushed and her hair wild as she opened the heavy wooden doors of the residence, finding her way to the library and stopping just outside. She pressed one hand to the grain of the door and filled her lungs with the air Brendan had stolen with that stolen kiss. She'd seen something in his eyes as he stepped from the shadows, a memory of their future. The weight of his presence lingered behind the door. Just as she was about to push it open, it gave way, and he was there. Isabella's breath caught. Brendan was barefoot, with his hair loose and his golden eyes darkened to a burnished bronze of desire and need and want. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then they crashed together in a kiss. Isabella's sunlight met his shadows on the threshold, swirling and mingling as dusk lured the last of the afternoon through the soaring vaulted windows. Their breathing was ragged when they broke apart, and the enchantment of the day gave into the seduction of the night. They were unmoving for a moment in the sacred space, where rich oak met luxurious earth tones. Sensuous fabrics clung to plump couches, and texture, tone, and color melded together to draw the eye to the staggering collection of books that lined the shelves. Brendan swung the door shut and locked it. Then he gently slid Isabella's hands above her head, pinning her wrists against the door with one hand and caressing her cheek with the other. "You," he said in a low voice, "are so fucking beautiful." Then he kissed her again. Isabella wanted him so much that she couldn't breathe. The feel of the door's grain on her hands and the dress's silk on her thighs sensitized her to Brendan's soft beard and hard body. He pinned her with a thrilling weight, the way his eyes had so many times before. "Brendan, please," at her breathy plea. He dropped her wrists and stepped back to unbutton his shirt. He didn't remove his eyes from hers, and she shivered at the dark shadows swirling in gold. Drawn magnetically as she had been the first time they met, Isabella slowly closed the distance between them as Brendan continued undoing his buttons. When she reached him, his scent enveloped her. It was comfort and safety, possibility and promise. It was home. When his buttons were undone, Isabella ran her hands under the material over his shoulders and chest. She trailed her hand down his stomach and stopped at his belt, raising her eyes in question. He was still breathing raggedly, and her heart pulsed in her ears. He nodded almost imperceptibly, and Isabella began working his belt free. "Isabella," he groaned. Brendan slid his fingers into her hair and rested his forehead on hers. The buckle clinked when she pulled it free, and she undid his pants button next. When she slowly lowered his zipper, Brendan gave a low, pained laugh. "I know," she breathed. "Believe me, I know." She pushed his pants over his hips and he pulled them off. He stood only in black boxer briefs, which was the most he'd ever revealed of himself. Isabella's hands shook. The moment was so much bigger than them. but she was more than ready to surrender to it. Gently, she ghosted her fingers over the waistband of his underwear. Brendan swallowed heavily, eyes fluttering. Then he nodded. Oh God. Isabella slowly tugged his underwear down and he kicked it away. She hadn't yet looked down when he cradled her cheek in his hand, brushing a thumb over her swollen bottom lip. She searched his face for any discomfort, but all she saw was the same kind of hunger that was consuming her. Finally, she dropped her eyes and dragged them over him. She was starving for his bare skin, for his trust. The golden glow of the lamps reflected her dress off his body, casting his magnificent, broken beauty into sharp relief. Brendan allowed her to devour him with her eyes, just long enough that she was grateful when he moved behind her to pull the laces of her corset free. It was the most erotic moment of her life, with his long, elegant fingers raising goosebumps on her skin. It wasn't long before the dress pulled at Isabella's feet. Brendan moved back in front of her and kneeled to pull off her boots. Isabella almost lost her mind at the image it made. Brendan on his knees, naked and staring up at her with reverent need. He tugged off her panties with a single finger, and finally, nothing separated them. Sunlight melted fully into shadow as Brendan stood to scoop her up in his arms. Isabella had the weightless sensation of being carried over a threshold, but all of their thresholds had already been crossed, so he simply laid her on the couch. As he had the day he first trusted her to see his scars, Brendan covered her with his body. Isabella's eyes almost rolled back when he settled between her thighs. "Thank you for waiting for me," he murmured. "Always." When Brendan trailed a finger over her cheek, it came away with her tears. Isabella didn't hide them because she trusted him to see all of her too. He kissed her tenderly. Then they began the tale as old as time. Their strength and beauty swirled together as they made love in a room full of stories. Isabella did surrender to the moment so much bigger than them, to her pleasure and to him. Brendan had learned her body so well that by the time they came together in the way she needed, he made her shatter again and again. Eventually, he did as well, and it took a long time for them to drift back into themselves. Afterwards, Isabella lay nestled against Brendan while he played with her hair. They had been quiet for a while, content in each other's arms. "I don't know if I'd ever be able to do that again." Brendan's voice was even more rumbly than usual. "Are you okay?" He had vanquished another of his demons, but Isabella wanted to make sure he didn't feel any discomfort or anxiety in the aftermath. "I feel like I can stop running, Isabella." She wondered if he had been inside her mind as well as her body. When she tilted her head up to look at him, Isabella was struck by the vulnerability on his face. It wasn't tinged with pain as it had been in the past. It was beautiful. She asked the same question that she had the other day. "Are you still afraid?" He smiled. "Yes, but I'm not alone anymore." "No, you're not. I love you." Isabella wished she had the courage to tell him that. "You're so brave," she told him instead. "You make me brave." "Brendan." Isabella caught a strand of his hair and wound it together with hers. "The thing you call darkness, I don't think that's its real name." He raised his surprised brows. "I think its real name is power." Brendan shifted. "I've seen it in you," Isabella continued. "It rises close to the surface sometimes, and it's breathtaking." then it's the kind of power that can hurt people or save people. Brendan. Isabella jumped when one of the library windows slammed shut. Save people? Brendan said, bringing her attention back to him. It's the difference between a comforting fireplace you come home to or the flames that scarred you, she said. Either way, it isn't the fire you should fear. A powerful emotion flickered over his face that she couldn't name, so he named it for her. I love you. Before she could respond, the window slammed again, but this time glass shattered all over the library floor.